Good morning. My name is Estiaan Coetzee. I am a student from the University of the Free State and an intern at Provar. And today I will be presenting on adaptability indexing of apple cultivars in diverse South African growing areas. The aim of this study was to develop an adaptability index model for apple genotype performance in diverse South African growing conditions. This study forms part of a bigger project funded by Hortgrow titled Adaptability Indexing of New Pome and Stone Fruit Cultivars in Diverse South African Growing Areas. Thus, the current study is a desktop study utilizing the data collected by two previous MSc studies done on apple trees within this bigger project. The data from 10 different genotypes was analyzed in this study. These genotypes were specifically selected due to their diverse chilling requirements. These trials were planted in a randomized complete block design and a split plot design in order to incorporate a chemical rest-breaking agent treatment. The trials were planted in three different locations, the Koe-Bokkeveld, Grabouw, and Robertson, and these areas have also been specifically selected due to their diverse chill unit accumulation. The data was collected over a period of 5 seasons from 2019 to 2024. The data from 28 different data sets was aggregated into one single data set containing over 1,200 variables. These variables were then used in order to identify indicators of apple tree adaptability and using those indicators of adaptability in a selection index to quantify adaptability for apple trees. We categorized the data into 4 categories of adaptability. These categories are phenology, vegetative growth, productivity, and fruit quality. The first statistical procedure used on the data is called the VAR class procedure. It is a method that groups similar variables together into clusters. We then identified a representative variable for each one of these clusters by using a 1 minus r squared ratio. After representative variables for each cluster have been identified, a consensus-based decision analysis was held in order to identify horticulturally important indicators of adaptability. This was done with a panel of horticulturalists. At this stage of the study, we identified both statistically and horticulturally important indicators of adaptability. We then recategorized the data by splitting the seasonal data into 2 groups: young trees containing all the data from 2019 to 2021, and older trees containing all the data from 2022 to 2024. We then created subcategories within each of these 2 groups, with young trees containing the subcategories of phenology and vegetative growth, and older trees containing the subcategories of phenology, vegetative growth, productivity, and fruit quality. From here on, all statistical procedures were applied to each one of these subcategories. In order to ensure the internal consistency of these subcategories, we created a second-order cluster structure using the VAR class procedure. A principal component analysis was then applied in order to select the variables that contribute the most to the total variation of all the selected variables. These variables that were identified was then used within a selection index calculation. A selection index is a statistical tool used to aggregate the values of these indicators of adaptability into a single indexing value. We then performed a GGE biplot analysis in order to further visualize the indexing results and improve the comparison between different genotypes. This table is just a small piece of the results for the VAR class procedure. We compared the results of the combined data set, the results of each category, and the results of each season when selecting variables in order to ensure that the selected variables are of high statistical importance. This figure shows the number of identified variables through the VAR class procedure for each one of the categories and for each one of the different seasons. This table shows all the variables identified for the category of phenology through the decision analysis that was held. This figure shows the results for the principal component analysis, and we excluded any variables that contributed the least to the total variation of all the selected variables. This was done until the contribution to the total variation of all the variables was close to 70%. These tables shows the final selected indicators of adaptability for the young tree phenology and for the older tree phenology. These variables were also then used within the indexing calculation in order to quantify adaptability. These figures is an example of the indexing results where we can compare the indexing values across 3 different environments. So we have our 10 genotypes on the extremities of these circles, and then these genotypes are plotted within the circles based on the indexing values. Therefore, genotypes plotted further away from the center means that it had a higher indexing score. So we can see that genotypes such as Louterwater Granny and Afri Blush consistently had a high performance across all 3 of these environments for young tree phenology, while genotypes like Lady in Red consistently had the lowest ranking for all 3 of these environments, and genotypes such as Granny Smith had a consistent intermediate performance for all 3 environments. This is an example of the indexing results for the phenology of young trees and older trees. Again, we can see that genotypes like Louterwater Granny and Afri Blush consistently did well when comparing young trees and older trees, while genotypes like Crips Red had quite a consistent low score comparing young trees and older trees, and genotypes like Granny Smith and Big Bucks had a consistent intermediate ranking. This is the GGE biplot results, and here for the indexing results. And so the results for both the environments and the treatments were included in the GGE biplot analysis. And again, we are comparing the phenology of young trees and older trees. We can see that genotypes such as Granny Smith and Afri Blush had a much more consistent performance across the different age groups compared to genotypes such as Louterwater Granny and Lady in Red. Through the development of this selection index model, we were able to identify important indicators of adaptability by using statistical methods such as the VAR-class procedure and principal component analysis, as well as including professional opinion through the use of a decision analysis. The variables identified to be indicators of adaptability were used within an index to quantify adaptability for apple trees. This allowed us to compare different genotypes across environments and compare genotypes for different treatments as well. The future research of this project will focus on assigning weights to the selected variables, improving the results of the index model by creating a weighted index. We will also be validating the index and verifying its ability to quantify adaptability. I would like to thank the following people and organizations who made this study possible, specifically Tristan and Cara and their study leaders for the data collection for this project. These are my references. Thank you for your attention.